The tranquil village of Abiola. In the heart of the lush forest of Abiola, a peaceful village bathed in golden sunlight, lived Adebisi, a widow known for her resilience and gentle spirit. Adebisi had twin daughters, Zara and Zina, whose beauty and kindness were celebrated across the village. Zara, the elder twin, was bold and adventurous, while Zina, her younger counterpart, exuded a quiet grace and a love for storytelling. Every day, Adebisi and her daughters worked together to create and sell intricately woven crafts. Their small business was a source of pride and sustenance, and their wares were sought after in the neighboring villages. Despite her hardships, Adebisi ensured that her daughters lacked for nothing, raising them with strong values and a keen awareness of the world's dangers. One evening, as the family sat under the wide branches of the village's oldest baobab tree, Adebisi spoke with concern. News had reached Abiola about a new market being set up on the village outskirts. This market, bustling with merchants and travelers from distant lands, promised new opportunities but also brought uncertainty. "My daughters," Adebisi began, her voice firm but loving, "the world beyond our village is not like our home. Strangers bring not only goods but also dangers. Trust must be earned, not given freely." Zara, ever curious, nodded but couldn't help feeling intrigued. Zina, more cautious, clung to her mother's every word, determined to heed her advice. A week later, curiosity got the better of Zara, and she decided to explore the new market. The vibrant stalls brimmed with colorful fabrics, fragrant spices, and trinkets that glittered in the sun. Amid the crowd, Zara's eyes met those of a charming trader named Eze, who smiled warmly at her. His confident demeanor and tales of the city captivated Zara, and she found herself drawn to his charm. Meanwhile, Zina had wandered to a quieter corner of the market, where she stumbled upon a mysterious storyteller named Kamau. His voice carried the cadence of ancient tales, and his stories seemed to weave a spell around Zina. Kamau's eyes glimmered with intrigue, and he appeared to take a special interest in her. That evening, the twins recounted their encounters to their mother. Adebisi listened carefully, her expression clouding with worry. She reminded her daughters of her earlier warning. "These men may seem kind, but the intentions of strangers are like the currents of a river hidden beneath the surface. Be careful, my loves." Unbeknownst to Adebisi, her daughters were already captivated. Zara was enchanted by Eze's worldly charm, and Zina was intrigued by Kamau's enigmatic presence. The tranquility of Abiola began to waver, as the twins' fascination with the newcomers quietly set the stage for a tale of love, danger, and resilience. Love or deception? Despite Adebisi's earnest warnings, the allure of the new market and its fascinating visitors became impossible for Zara and Zina to resist. The twins began meeting Eze and Kamau in secret, drawn by their captivating personalities and the excitement of their unfamiliar world. Zara, bold and eager, fell deeper under Eze's spell. He would meet her under the shade of the great baobab tree and speak of the wonders of the city, bustling streets, towering buildings, and a life filled with opportunities. Each meeting brought her gifts, vibrant scarves, polished trinkets, and once, a delicate anklet she could not stop admiring. Zara's dreams began to fill with images of leaving the village and exploring the vast world Eze described. Zina, on the other hand, found herself enchanted by Kamau's quiet wisdom and poetic storytelling. He spoke of journeys across distant lands, of ancient kings and mythical creatures, painting vivid pictures that stirred Zina's imagination. Unlike Eze, Kamau did not offer material gifts but promised to teach Zina the art of storytelling, a skill she had always admired. She yearned to learn from him and share tales of her own one day. As the twins grew closer to the men, Adebisi noticed a change in her daughters. Zara's vibrant confidence seemed tinged with a restless impatience, while Zina's reserved nature now hid a secret she was unwilling to share. Adebisi, sensing something was amiss, decided to consult the village elder, Mama Olu, a wise and revered figure known for her knowledge and intuition. Seated in Mama Olu's hut, surrounded by herbs and charms, Adebisi poured out her concerns. The elder listened quietly, her face grave. After a long silence, she spoke. "Adebisi," she said, her voice low and steady, "I see shadows surrounding these strangers. Their words are sweet, but there is poison in their intentions. Warn your daughters. These men do not bring good fortune, they bring sorrow." Adebisi returned home, her heart heavy with dread. That evening, she shared Mama Olu's warning with Zara and Zina, hoping to instill caution. But the twins, though they respected their mother, dismissed the elder's words as the fears of an old woman steeped in superstition. "Mother," Zara said with a determined smile, "not everyone is out to harm us. Eze wants to help me see the world beyond this village." Kamau only shares stories, Zina added softly. "There's nothing dangerous about that." Their words did little to ease Adebisi's worries. She watched helplessly as her daughters continued to meet Eze and Kamau, their bond with the strangers deepening. While doubts began to flicker in the twins' minds, planted by Mama Olu's warning, the pull of their feelings was far stronger. Unbeknownst to Zara and Zina, danger was already circling them. The seemingly innocent meetings with Eze and Kamau were part of a larger scheme, one that would soon test the strength of their family and the resilience of their hearts. The disappearance. The festival in the neighboring village was a rare event, whispered about in Abiola with anticipation and excitement. Eze and Kamau, knowing how to stoke the twins' curiosity, used it as bait for their plan. They approached Zara and Zina with smiles, their voices laced with promises of a magical night. "You'll love it," he said to Zara, holding her gaze with his dark, enigmatic eyes. "Music, dancing, food, nothing like anything you've seen here. It's the perfect escape." Kamau nodded, turning to Zina. "And the stories?" The griots from the neighboring lands gathered to share the rarest tales. "I'll introduce you to them." The idea was intoxicating. The twins had never left Abiola, and the promise of something so grand was irresistible. Despite their mother's warnings, they agreed. Eze and Kamau instructed them to meet at the edge of the forest after sundown and, above all, to tell no one. That evening, Zara and Zina prepared silently. Zara tied her hair back and wore the anklet Eze had given her. Zina tucked a small notebook and pencil into her satchel, ready to capture the tales she might hear. Before sneaking out, they left a hurried note for their mother. "Mama, we are going to the festival in the next village. Don't worry, we will be back before dawn. Love, Zara and Zina." They crept through the shadows, their footsteps light on the dirt path as they slipped past the village boundary. At the meeting spot, Eze and Kamau waited with a wooden cart. The men helped the twins inside, assuring them it would be faster than walking. Excitement overrode suspicion as they began the journey. Back at home, Adebisi found the note. Her heart sank as she read the hastily written words. Anxiety gripped her. She rushed to the elder, Mama Olu, clutching the note in trembling hands. "Mama Olu, my daughters have gone to the festival with those strangers. I fear for them. Please help me," she pleaded. Mama Olu's expression darkened. She closed her eyes, muttering incantations under her breath as she reached for her divination tools, cowrie shells, beads, and a bowl of sacred water. She tossed the shells into the bowl and peered intently at their arrangement. "What do you see?" Adebisi asked, her voice breaking. The elder's face turned grim. "The spirits reveal darkness, Adebisi. Your daughters are in grave danger. They've been led far from safety. We must act quickly." Meanwhile, the twins were deep in the forest, their excitement giving way to unease. The cart had veered off the main road, and the dense trees cast eerie shadows under the moonlight. "Isn't this the wrong way?" Zina asked, her voice trembling. Kamau chuckled, though his tone lacked its usual warmth. A shortcut. Don't worry, little one. But worry was already creeping in. Zara gripped Zina's hand, her adventurous spirit faltering. They exchanged a glance, their earlier excitement replaced by shared fear. The cart came to a sudden halt in a small clearing. Before the twins could ask why, figures emerged from the shadows, 4 men, their faces obscured by scarves. They moved swiftly, yanking the twins from the cart. What's happening? Zara shouted, struggling against the strong grip of one of the men. Eze's expression hardened, his charming facade gone. Be quiet and cooperate. You'll fetch us a good price. Zina's eyes widened in horror. Price? What do you mean? Kamau's voice was cold as he replied, you'll find out soon enough. The twins fought, but their captors were too strong. Their hands were bound, and blindfolds were tied over their eyes. They were forced to march through the forest, the rough terrain bruising their feet. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the snapping of twigs, seemed to mock their helplessness. Zara whispered to Zina as they stumbled along. We have to stay strong. We'll find a way out. I'm scared, Zina replied, tears streaming down her face. Mama was right. We should have listened. Back in Abiola, Adebisi and Mama Olu gathered a group of villagers to begin the search. Armed with torches and weapons, they ventured into the forest. Mama Olu led the way, guided by the whispers of the spirits and the faint energy trail left by the twins. We must be swift, Mama Olu urged. Time is against us. The twins were taken to a hidden hideout deep within the forest, a crumbling building surrounded by thick vegetation. Inside, they were shoved into a small, windowless room. The air was damp, and the faint sound of other captives crying reached their ears. Zara and Zina huddled together, their bonds cutting into their wrists. Zara whispered, her voice trembling but determined. We'll find a way to escape, Zina. We will. In the darkness, the weight of their choices bore down on them, but so did the faint hope that their mother would come for them. Little did they know, Adebisi was closer than they could imagine, driven by love and the unshakable will of a mother who refused to give up. A mother's desperation. Adebisi stood in the center of Abiola, her heart heavy with dread. The villagers she had called upon earlier had returned from their initial search, their faces marked with exhaustion and defeat. Despite combing through the nearby forest and questioning travelers at the bustling market, no trace of Zara and Zina had been found. The night had grown deep, and the flickering torchlights of the search party cast long, restless shadows over the village. Adebisi clenched her fist, her resolve unbroken. She turned to the elder, Mama Olu, who stood quietly by her side. We can't stop now, Adebisi said, her voice shaking but firm. They're out there. I can feel it. My daughters need me. Mama Olu placed a comforting hand on Adebisi's shoulder. We will find them, child. But to do so, we must look beyond what is seen. Fasting and pleading to the ancestors. At dawn, Adebisi withdrew to her humble hut. There, she lit a small fire and placed offerings of kola nuts, palm oil, and white chalk on an earthen plate as gifts to the ancestors. She knelt before the sacred shrine in her home, a wooden carving of her family's protective spirit, and began to pray. Ancestors of my blood, guardians of this land, I call upon you, Adebisi whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Guide me to my daughters. They are my heart, my life. Do not let harm befall them. For days, Adebisi fasted, taking only water, and prayed relentlessly. Her body grew weaker, but her spirit burned brighter with each passing hour. Villagers came to offer their support, leaving small tokens of food or lighting candles at her shrine. Word spread across Abiola of Adebisi's desperate devotion, and soon her plea became the village's rallying cry. Mama Olu's vision. On the third night of Adebisi's fasting, Mama Olu arrived at her home carrying her sacred divination tools. "The ancestors have heard your cries, Adebisi," she said, her voice heavy with solemnity. "They spoke to me in my dreams last night. I have seen where your daughters are." Adebisi's eyes lit up with a mix of hope and fear. "Where are they? Tell me." Mama Olu's expression darkened. "They are in the forest of shadows." At the mention of the forest, Adebisi shivered. The forest of shadows was infamous throughout the region, a place whispered about in fearful tones. Tales of dark rituals, kidnappings, and human trafficking surrounded it like a shroud. Few dared to venture there, and fewer still returned. "The spirits showed me a hidden path leading to a ruined hideout deep within the forest," Mama Olu continued. "Your daughters are there, but the place is guarded by men who deal in evil. This will not be an easy journey." Adebisi stood, her body frail but her determination unwavering. "I will go. I will face whatever danger lies ahead to bring my daughters home." The perilous journey. Adebisi prepared for the journey with the help of the villagers. Kola, a skilled hunter, offered to accompany her, along with a small group of young men armed with bows, spears, and machetes. Mama Olu prepared charms and protective amulets, chanting blessings over each member of the group. Before they departed, Mama Olu handed Adebisi a small pouch filled with sacred herbs and cowrie shells. "This is your protection," she said. "When you feel lost, throw the shells to the ground and they will point you in the right direction. But beware, the forest of shadows feeds on fear. You must remain strong in your heart." The group set out at dawn, their torches cutting through the lingering mist that clung to the trees. The path to the forest of shadows was treacherous, with narrow trails winding through dense vegetation and steep ravines. As they approached the forest, an eerie silence fell over the group. The usual hum of insects and calls of birds were absent, replaced by an oppressive stillness. Signs of danger. Deep within the forest, the group began to notice signs of human activity, discarded clothing, broken jewelry, and crude carvings on tree trunks. Adebisi's heart sank at the sight, each item a haunting reminder of those who had vanished before. "Kola," Adebisi whispered, pointing to a piece of fabric caught on a branch. "This is Zara's. I gave it to her last harvest season." Kola examined it and nodded grimly. "We are on the right track. But we must move quickly. The men who guard this place are dangerous." As they ventured deeper, they came across a trail of footprints leading toward a derelict structure hidden by thick vines and trees. Adebisi clutched the amulet around her neck, whispering a silent prayer for strength. A mother's unwavering love. When they reached the edge of the hideout, the group stopped to assess the situation. Several armed men patrolled the area, their expressions cold and watchful. Adebisi's heart ached at the thought of her daughters trapped inside, possibly injured or worse. "We need a plan," Kola said. "Charging in will get us all killed." Adebisi looked at the hunters, then at the hideout. Her love for her daughters fueled her courage, and an idea began to form. "I will distract them," she said. "Let me approach first. When the guards are focused on me, you move in quietly and take them down." The hunters hesitated, but Kola saw the fire in Adebisi's eyes and nodded. "Be careful, Adebisi. We cannot lose you too." With her amulet clutched tightly in one hand and the pouch of protective herbs in the other, Adebisi stepped out of the shadows. She walked boldly toward the hideout, her voice ringing out with a strength that belied her fragile frame. "You who prey on the innocent," she called, "face me, a mother who will stop at nothing to protect her children." The guards turned, startled by her sudden appearance. For a brief moment, they hesitated, confused by her audacity. That moment was all Kola and his men needed. As chaos erupted, Adebisi stood her ground, her unwavering love for her daughters giving her the courage to face the danger head-on. captivity and survival. The hideout was dark and damp, its air heavy with despair. Zara and Zina, bound and frightened, were shoved into a small room with rough stone walls and a single barred window high above. Around them, the muffled sounds of crying and whispered prayers from other captives painted a grim picture of the situation. The sisters exchanged a terrified glance, their earlier hope and courage hanging by a thread. The truth unveiled. Eze and Kamau entered the room later that night, their warm facades completely replaced by cold, calculating expressions. "You're lucky," he said to Zara with a chilling smirk. "You'll fetch a good price. Both of you will." Kamau leaned against the doorway, his voice dripping with mockery. "It's not personal, little ones. It's just business." The realization hit the twins like a blow. These men, who had once seemed so kind and charming, were nothing more than predators. Zara gritted her teeth, her mind racing for a way to protect her sister. Zina, tears streaming silently down her cheeks, clung to Zara's arm. They were surrounded by evil, but they resolved not to give in to despair. Feigned obedience. The twins quickly realized that fighting openly would only make things worse. They decided to feign obedience, appearing submissive and compliant to avoid drawing unwanted attention. Zara pretended to follow instructions quietly, while Zina adopted an air of quiet meekness, hiding her sharp observation behind a veil of fear. Their captors began to see them as pliable, a mistake the twins intended to exploit. A new ally. On their second day in the hideout, the twins were introduced to Amora, a young woman who had been held captive for weeks. Amora, though battered and weary, still carried an air of defiance. She quickly took an interest in the twins and began sharing whispers of hope and resistance. They are part of a larger ring, Amora confided one evening as they sat together in their room, pretending to rest. Eze and Kamau are just the pawns. The real leaders stay hidden. But I've noticed something, Kamau is careless. He often leaves the keys to the storage room on his belt. Zara and Zina listened intently, their minds turning the information over, searching for ways to use it. Amora revealed more about their captors' weaknesses, Eze's overconfidence and Kamau's tendency to drink late at night when the guards let their guard down. "Together, we can outsmart them," Amora said, her voice firm despite the fear that lingered in her eyes. "But we need to act fast." The signal for help. Zara and Zina began working on a subtle plan to alert the outside world. They noticed that the traffickers occasionally discarded old food wrappers and broken equipment outside the hideout, and the captives were tasked with cleaning up the area. During one of these chores, Zara and Zina used a sharp rock to carve a message into a piece of wood: "Help. Captives inside. Danger." They tossed the carved wood into a nearby stream, hoping the current would carry it downstream to someone who could help. It was a small, desperate act, but it rekindled a glimmer of hope in their hearts. A risky strategy. That night, the twins and Amora devised a more immediate escape plan. Amora would distract Kamau by spilling water near the storage room, forcing him to leave his post to clean up. Zara, being the boldest, would try to steal the keys while Zina kept watch. As they whispered their plan in the darkness, Zina trembled with anxiety. What if it doesn't work? What if they catch us? Zara placed a reassuring hand on her sister's shoulder. It will work. We have no choice but to try. Amora nodded. Even if we fail, they'll know we're not giving up. That alone is worth something. Small acts of defiance. Over the next 2 days, the trio began executing small acts of defiance to test their captors' limits. They intentionally moved slower during chores, accidentally spilled water, and left subtle signs of resistance, nothing overt enough to raise alarms but enough to learn their captors' habits. Kamau, as Amora had observed, grew impatient and careless during these moments. Eze, too consumed by his arrogance, seemed oblivious to their actions. The captives were biding their time, waiting for the perfect moment to act. Hope on the horizon. One afternoon, while pretending to clean near the hideout's entrance, Zina noticed something that filled her with cautious optimism, a faint trail of trampled grass and footprints leading toward the forest. It was a sign that someone had been nearby, possibly tracking their captors. She whispered to Zara, "Do you think someone is looking for us?" Zara's jaw tightened. "If Mama is out there, she'll find us. But we need to survive until then." As the days passed, the twins clung to the hope that their carved message had reached someone, that their mother was on her way, and that they would soon find a way to escape this nightmare. Little did they know, Adebisi and Mama Olu were closer than they imagined, driven by love, courage, and the unshakable determination of a mother who would stop at nothing to save her daughters. The climactic rescue. The forest of shadows loomed before Adebisi and her companions, an intimidating wall of towering trees and tangled undergrowth. The hunters, armed with bows, spears, and machetes, exchanged wary glances as they prepared to enter the forest. Mama Olu, walking beside Adebisi, clutched her staff adorned with protective charms. The air was thick with tension, but Adebisi's resolve was unshakable. "We don't leave this forest without my daughters," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. The group nodded in agreement, emboldened by her determination. Deciphering the signal. Deep in the forest, the group paused to study their surroundings. Kola, the lead hunter, spotted something unusual by the edge of a stream, a piece of wood with markings carved into its surface. He retrieved it and brought it to Adebisi and Mama Olu. The markings, though faint, clearly read, "Help. Captives inside. Danger." Adebisi's heart leaped. "It's from Zara and Zina. They are alive." Mama Olu examined the carving, muttering an incantation under her breath. She tossed a handful of crushed herbs into the air, and the wind seemed to shift, rustling the trees as if guiding them forward. "The spirits approve. They are showing us the way." The group pressed on, following the faint trail of disturbed vegetation and footprints. As they drew closer to the heart of the forest, the sound of muffled voices reached their ears. The hideout was near. The hideout revealed. Hidden behind a dense thicket, the hideout came into view. It was a crumbling, moss-covered structure surrounded by armed men who paced the perimeter. Zara and Zina, along with several other captives, could be glimpsed through a small barred window, their faces pale and weary. Adebisi's breath caught in her throat at the sight of her daughters, but she forced herself to stay calm. Kola crouched beside her, surveying the guards. "They are armed, but their defenses are scattered. If we move quickly and quietly, we can take them by surprise." Mama Olu began chanting softly, invoking the protection of the ancestors. She handed Adebisi a charm for strength and courage. "You are the heart of this rescue, Adebisi. Your daughters need your bravery now more than ever." The confrontation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the group launched their attack. Adebisi led the charge, her presence electrified by the fierce love she carried for her daughters. The hunters moved with precision, silently taking down the outer guards one by one. Inside the hideout, Eze and Kamau were startled by the commotion. "What's going on out there?" Kamau backed, grabbing a weapon. Zara and Zina exchanged a glance. They could hear the sounds of the fight growing louder. Hope ignited in their hearts. "Mama," Zina whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She's here." Kamau burst into the room, his eyes wild. "Stay quiet, or..." Before he could finish, the door behind him crashed open. Adebisi stood there, her figure framed by the torchlight. Her eyes locked on her daughters, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. "Eze. Kamau." Adebisi shouted, her voice echoing with fury. "Your evil ends here." Eze lunged at her, but Adebisi sidestepped with surprising agility, striking him with the wooden staff Mama Olu had given her. Kamau attempted to flee but was intercepted by Kola, who disarmed him with a swift blow. The twins freed. The hunters quickly subdued the remaining guards, tying them up and ensuring no one could escape. Adebisi rushed to her daughters, her hands trembling as she untied the ropes that bound them. Zara and Zina collapsed into her arms, their sobs muffled against her chest. "We thought we'd never see you again," Zara cried. "How did you find us?" Adebisi held them tightly, her voice choked with emotion. "A mother's love knows no limits. I would have crossed the earth to bring you home." Amora, the twins' ally, watched from a distance, her face filled with gratitude as she was also freed. Other captives were led out of the hideout, their expressions a mix of relief and disbelief. Victory and reflection. As the captives were escorted back to the village, Mama Olu stood over the subdued Eze and Kamau, her voice ringing with authority. "Your deeds will not go unpunished. The ancestors have seen your wickedness, and justice will be served." Eze, stripped of his bravado, remained silent, his eyes cast downward. Kamau muttered curses under his breath but was quickly silenced by a hunter's glare. Back in the forest clearing, Adebisi knelt beside her daughters. She examined their faces, noting the bruises and exhaustion but also the resilience shining in their eyes. "You're safe now," she whispered, stroking their hair. "We are going home." A mother's strength. As they walked back to Abiola, the twins learned of the immense risks Adebisi had taken to rescue them. She recounted her fasting, prayers, and the perilous journey into the forest. "You gave us the strength to keep going," Zina said softly, holding her mother's hand. "We never stopped believing you would come." Zara nodded. "Mama, you taught us to be brave. We tried to fight back. We even sent a signal. Did you find it?" Adebisi smiled faintly, her tears glistening in the moonlight. "Yes, my clever girls. It led us to you." As the reunited family reached the village, they were met with cheers and tears of joy. Adebisi's heroic journey became a tale of courage and love that would be told in Abiola for generations. But for Adebisi, Zara, and Zina, the greatest victory was holding each other close, knowing that love and resilience had triumphed over the darkest of evils. Healing and new beginnings. The return of Zara and Zina to the village of Abiola was met with an outpouring of relief and joy. The villagers gathered to welcome them home, their cheers echoing through the surrounding forest. The twins, though weary and bruised, were embraced as symbols of resilience and courage. Justice for the captors. The following morning, the captors, including Eze and Kamau, were brought before the village council. Mama Olu, as the community's elder and spiritual guide, stood at the forefront of the proceedings. "The evil deeds of these men have harmed not just our daughters but many others. Such acts have no place in this world," she proclaimed. The council, after deliberation, decided to turn the captors over to the regional authorities, ensuring they would face trial and be punished according to the law. The villagers felt a renewed sense of security knowing justice would be served. The twins' mission. In the weeks following their rescue, Zara and Zina began the slow process of healing. Their mother, Adebisi, cared for them with tenderness, often reminding them of their strength. "You survived because of your courage and love for one another," she would say. The experience, however, left an indelible mark on the twins. Zara, ever bold, stood before the village one evening during a gathering and spoke of their ordeal. "We were deceived by sweet words and promises," she admitted. "But we also learned the importance of vigilance and wisdom. No one else should have to go through what we did." Zina added softly, "We will share what we've learned to protect others. Together, we can ensure our sisters and daughters stay safe." The twins organized educational sessions for the village's young women, teaching them how to recognize and avoid dangerous situations. They shared their story as a cautionary tale, encouraging open communication between families and friends. Adebisi's support group. Inspired by her daughter's determination, Adebisi created a support group for families affected by loss or hardship. She partnered with Mama Olu, who offered her wisdom and spiritual guidance, and the group became a safe space for sharing experiences and rebuilding strength. The support group grew quickly, attracting families from neighboring villages. Adebisi's work extended beyond emotional healing. She also started a small fund to help women and children in vulnerable situations. Donations from villagers and merchants at the market kept the initiative thriving. The greatest strength, Adebisi said during one meeting, is in our unity. Together, we can face anything. A new chapter. As time passed, life in Abiola slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm. Zara and Zina began helping their mother expand her craft business, weaving not just beautiful fabrics but also stories of resilience into their work. Their creations, inspired by their journey, drew admiration and became symbols of hope. Zara found joy in teaching younger girls how to make crafts and write, while Zina worked alongside Mama Olu to preserve and share the village's oral traditions. Their bond as sisters deepened, and they supported each other in moving forward. One afternoon, as they sat under the old baobab tree, Zina turned to Zara. "Do you think we'll ever forget what happened?" Zara placed a hand on her sister's. "We won't forget, but we'll use it. It's part of who we are now, and we'll make sure it helps others." The legacy of resilience. The story of Adebisi's unwavering love and the twins' bravery became a legend in Abiola. Children grew up hearing how a mother's faith and determination saved her daughters, and how those daughters turned their pain into purpose. On the anniversary of their rescue, the village held a celebration. Mama Olu blessed the occasion, saying, "From darkness, light was born. From despair, hope arose." Let this story remind us all that love and courage are the strongest forces of all. As Adebisi watched her daughters laugh and dance with the villagers, her heart swelled with pride. They had endured the unimaginable, but they had emerged stronger, their spirits unbroken. The forest of shadows was no longer a place of fear. It became a reminder of what could be overcome with love, unity, and the unyielding will to protect what mattered most. Together, Adebisi, Zara, and Zina turned their tragedy into a foundation for a brighter, safer future.